John Travers Cornwell was born on the 8th of January 1900 in Leighton, Essex. His parents were Eli and Lily Cornwell. He had a sister and 3 brothers, as well as 2 half-siblings from his father's previous marriage. He left Walton Road School at the standard age of 14. In October 1915, Jack Cornwell gave up his job as a delivery boy and enlisted in the Royal Navy without his father's permission. He had references from his headmaster and employer. He carried out his basic training at HMS Vivid Keesham Naval Barracks in Plymouth and received further training as a sight setter or gun layer and became Boy Seaman First Class. On Easter Monday 1916, Cornwell left for Rosyth, Scotland, to join his assignment in the Navy. He was assigned to HMS Chester. On the 31st of May 1916, Chester was scouting ahead of the 3rd Battle Cruiser Squadron at the Battle of Jutland, when the ship turned to investigate gunfire in the distance. At 17:30 hours, Chester soon came under intense fire from 4 Kaiserlich marine cruisers, each her own size, which had suddenly emerged from the haze and increasing funnel smoke of the battlefield. The shielded 5.5-inch gun mounting, where Cornwell was serving as a sight setter, was affected by at least 4 nearby hits. Chester's gun mountings were open-backed shields and did not reach down to the deck. Splinters were thus able to pass under them and enter the open back when shells exploded nearby or behind. All the gun's crew were killed or mortally injured except Cornwell, who, although severely wounded, managed to stand up and again remain at his post for more than 15 minutes until Chester retired from the action, with only 1 main battery gun still working. Chester had received a total of 18 hits, but partial hull armour meant that the interior of the ship suffered little serious damage, and the ship itself was never in peril of sinking. Nevertheless, the situation on deck was dire. Many of the gun crews had lost lower limbs due to splinters passing under the gun shields. British ships reported passing the Chester to cheers from limbless wounded gun crew laid out on her deck and smoking cigarettes, only to hear that the same crewman had died a few hours later from blood loss and shock. After the action, medics arrived on deck to find Cornwell the sole survivor standing at his gun, shards of steel penetrating his chest, looking at the gun sights and still waiting for orders. Being incapable of further action, Chester was ordered to the port of Immingham. There, Cornwell was transferred to Grimsby General Hospital, although he was clearly dying. He died shortly before 8 a.m. on the morning of the 2nd of June 1916, before his mother could arrive at the hospital. 3 months later, Captain Robert Lawson of Chester described the events to the British Admiralty. Though at first reluctant, the Admiralty eventually decided to recommend Cornwell for a posthumous Victoria Cross, and King George V endorsed it. The recommendation for citation from Admiral David Beatty reads, "The instance of devotion to duty by Boy First Class John Travers Cornwell, who was mortally wounded early in the action, but nevertheless remained standing alone at a most exposed post. Quietly awaiting orders to the end of the action, the gun's crew dead and wounded around him. He was under 16.5 years old. I regret that he has since died, but I recommend his case for special recognition in justice to his memory and as an acknowledgement of the high example set by him." Jack Cornwell was initially buried in a common grave in Manor Park Cemetery, London, although his body was exhumed on the 29th of July 1916, at which he was reburied with full military honours in the same cemetery. Cornwell's father, Eli, who died at the age of 64, on the 25th of October 1916 from bronchitis during home service with the Royal Defence Corps was buried in the same grave on the 31st of October. The epitaph to Jack Cornwell on his grave monument reads, "It is not wealth or ancestry, but honourable conduct and a noble disposition that maketh men great." John Travers Cornwell was just 16 years old. If you like listening to the stories of the history of those who came before, then please give the video a like and subscribe to keep updated about future videos of the history of those who came before.